Time now for today's perspective. We're looking at HIV. That's a synonym we all know very well, but how much do we actually know about the words and the virus behind those letters? Well, scientists and health organisations say not enough. They're warning that as treatments have been developed that enable people to live with the virus, fears have diminished, but the rate of infection has not. 15 to 20 people a day diagnosed with HIV in France, many more, of course, around the world. To give us her perspective on just how far we've come in the fight against HIV and where we need to go from here, we're joined by one of the scientists who first discovered the virus, Professor Françoise Barré-Sinoussi. Thanks so much for coming into studios, give us your time. I have to admit, when I started to research for today's interview, I realised that I wasn't actually very clear on the difference between HIV and AIDS. If I understand correctly, HIV is the virus we get first, and if it progresses bad enough, we get AIDS, which is the very deadly version. AIDS today, though, has that almost been eradicated because we have a treatment for HIV? People live with it.
Exactly, at least in rich countries. We can say that if people are diagnosed very early on, carry the virus, then they are treated immediately, their life expectancy is similar to someone who is not infected by HIV, which is great. In my country, in France, I mean, almost everybody is on treatment, except those who don't know.
Oh, yes,
they are infected
tested,
because we estimate that we have 24,000 people who are carrying the virus and they don't know. So it is those people who are transmitting the virus to others. In the world, we have 37 million of people living with HIV. We have only 20 million of people on treatment. So that means that 40% of people who need to be on treatment are not on treatment and continue, of course, to transmit the virus to others.
So really getting those tests done is a vital part of it. But, you know, when you're on the treatment, what is it like then to live with HIV?
Today, I mean, the quality of life is quite good because, you know, people are taking one pill per day. And very often the young people tell me, you know, who is not taking one pill a day? So it's nothing very important, but it's a pill that you have to take for all your life because there is no cure today for HIV. And the young people, 25% of them think that the treatment can cure.
And you know, I mean, that is, of course, where scientists and researchers are trying to go. And we're hearing the latest research from a university, I believe, in the US, in Pittsburgh, you know, saying it's maybe coming closer to a vaccination. You're wary of that?
I'm not saying that we are close to vaccination. I will not say that. There is a lot of progress during the last 10 years with the identification of very, very potent neutralizing antibodies, specifically in US. And now the researchers are trying to have a vaccine that could induce these very, very potent antibodies. We are not yet there.
Still discovery period. And when we hear, because we have heard just last month a second exceptional case, it sounds, of people having bone marrow transplants and the HIV virus going completely into remission. I mean, some people actually using the word cured.
Yeah, I will not say cure for the London patient because the case you are mentioning is a London patient, which is a similar case to the Berlin patient. The Berlin patient, we can say, is cure or it's really long, very long-term remission because it's more than 12 years now that we cannot detect the virus in his blood, but not only in his blood, in different other compartments of his body. The London patient is not the case. It's only 19 months that he is without any treatment. And when we say we cannot detect the virus, it's only in the blood.
Okay, so it's very early stages. But maybe a road to look down as to why these particular people have gone into remission. Can I ask you, Professor, a more personal side of the story? When you first discovered, I mean, that HIV virus, was there a light bulb moment? I mean, how did it happen and did you realize what it meant when?
First of all, you know, it's not one particular moment because it's a long-term
years of research.
you know, it was not happiness, really. It was, we have to rush. We have to rush because we don't know anything about this virus. We have to characterize the virus. At the same time, we have to prove that the virus is a cause of the disease itself. And then we have to find a solution for prevention, solution for treatment. So we were more on pressure, let's say.
Because, I mean, when HIV became known, I mean, I guess the illness existed well before we realised what it was, but there was so much fear. That seems to have pretty much faded away, but is that now part of the problem?
For sure, this is part of the problem because people do not care too much about HIV. The young people we were mentioning before, almost 50% of them are not using condom today. So they do not protect themselves when they have sexual relationship. And we have another part of the population, people who are more than 50 years old, are becoming infected also, some of them. So, and they think that, you know, they are 50 years old, they don't want to take condom anymore, and so there is a treatment. So
a lack of focus, I guess, on the situation. Do you feel that our attention has drifted away? Are certain countries, you know, worse at that than others?
Exactly. Some countries are worse than others. South Africa is unfortunately very much affected by HIV for many reasons. But today they are trying to do their best, you know, to treat people, to have prevention. In particular for the young people, the young girl, adolescent girl are very strongly affected in South Africa, and this is really a concern. Another part of the world that nobody are speaking too much about is Eastern Europe. Eastern Europe is not far from here, but for political reasons, the government there in Russia, for example, decided that they will not take care about the marginalized population because the infection is mostly in IV drug users and in the gay population. And they say, okay, that's fine. If they die, we don't care about them. So we can see the epidemic in this region of the world growing.
Actually growing.
Growing.
When it is preventable, if we just take simple precautions.
It's preventable, we can treat, and when people are treated, they do not transmit to their partner, which is a very important point also, a double benefit. Benefit for the individual and benefit for the epidemic globally.
Do you see a day when the world will be once again without this HIV virus? I mean, I know you've even gone as far as writing to the Pope to try and get him to play his part in it.
That was a long time ago, yeah, of course. You know, we are trying to make advocacy as much as possible in order to one day see the eradication of this epidemic. But personally, I believe that we will have eradication of the epidemic only if we have a vaccine, only if we have a treatment that people can stop, a treatment that will induce durable remission.
And of course, for that, we need money being poured into research and all of that. Is that money forthcoming from governments?
The money is coming from the government in my country, in France, for sure. We still have a special agency for research on HIV and viral hepatitis, which is good. And we are the only country with the United States today to have a special funding. We have SIDAction. SIDAction is an NGO.
Which you're the president of and has been fundraising again for the 25th annual fundraiser.
25th year of fundraising for supporting research, but also for supporting NGO which are taking care of patients. But you know, we have also to consider what's going on in the rest of the world, and the Global Fund is critical for access to prevention and treatment, for sure.
Indeed, and the world has become such a small place. Well, Professor Françoise Barré-Sinoussi, thanks so much for coming in and giving us your insight into that situation.
Thank you very much.